Out with the park, in with the SAT. Education Secretary Ryan Stewart made the announcement that New Mexico schools will use the college entrance exam as the state's high school assessment. The secretary says the assessment task force wanted a more useful measure of high school performance, and the SAT fits the bill. Is it the right call? Joining us this week to offer their opinion on this and a pair of other topics, attorney and line regular Sophie Martin is here with her take on today's topics. We welcome longtime friend of the show, Martha Burke, political psychologist and author of the book, Your Voice, Your Vote. And we'll talk about that book here in a quick second, too. Another regular former state senator is with us, Diane Snyder. Thank you, Diane, for being here. And Kathy McGill is back. She's the founder and director of the New Mexico Black Leadership Council. Now, so if you're familiar with the SAT, certainly.
Indeed,
college.
I am.
Yes, college, everyone starts getting a little heebie-jeebies just even at the name. It's interesting. The exams aren't without controversy, and was the administration so anxious to get away from Park that they jumped at the first reasonable chance here? Is that your sense?
Well, I mean, certainly the administration up in Santa Fe was very eager to get away from Park. I mean, that was part of what Governor Lujan Grisham campaigned on. So there was no doubt that Park was going to go away. There was a committee that the state put together to look at alternatives, and they did look at both the ACT and the SAT. But I mean, to say the state was necessarily hasty in choosing the SAT, I think it's worth pointing out that we're not the first state to identify the SAT as an option for that sort of not quite exit test, but that junior year exam. There are 20 states now that are, at least at the moment, as far as I know, that are going to be working with the SAT. And the SAT itself has been making changes. The test that you see now is new as of 2016. It's been making changes. The College Board has been trying to make it closer to reflect better both what's being taught in high schools, but then also what colleges are saying they want to see in the high school curriculum. And so that there's some sort of push and pull that's happening there as the test evolves. There's always an attempt in high stakes testing to increase what we call the validity of the exam. Is it testing what it needs to be testing? And in many ways, I think that's the big question for New Mexico. Given our educational standards, given the federal standards that we need to deal with, is the SAT the most appropriate in terms of what it's testing, how it's testing? And without a great deal of additional information, today it's hard to say. But certainly the College Board is saying that they are tying the test to state and federal standards, and they believe that they more than meet those standards with their exam.
You know, Diane, when you think about it, Senator, they, in fact, will be paying for this. Not in effect, they will be paying for this test. The goal here is to perhaps lessen a barrier to college. What's so bad about that? That seems like a reasonable way to go.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you could do the same thing had they chosen to go with the ACT instead of the SAT. The funding could have been put in. I noticed also in the course of some of the discussion I read is they are also looking at funding covering the PSAT, which is earlier on in your high school career. So I think I'm fine with that. Only concern I have is always, as you know, we're a boom-bust cycle. What happens when we're in the bust part? Does this go away? Is this something? I don't know.
Do you have a concern?
I think anytime you put something new in place, it's because some states are paying for it. Most places don't. When I grew up, we didn't. The one thing that I found that it was interesting about is the SAT has the different segments, and once you've taken the full test, if you've done poorly, say in math, you can go back and take the math segment again. Now you have to pay a fee for it, and I believe we're paying for that also.
I think that's the ACT.
I'm sorry, you're right. I am. But so we could have gone with that. Those are some of the differences. The SAT, let me get on right track here, is they're talking about dropping their adversity scoring segment, that a hardship, the neighborhood environment, what children are experiencing. And it looks, from what I read, as they put it in place, a few schools took the opportunity to do it, and then now SAT is dropping out of it. The main thing I found in all this discussion that was astounding to me is whatever. Yeah, some word.
Right,
Holy is the business of the college board and the money. Why are we even having students having to pay for this at all? I mean, this is. I mean, $900,000 a year salary for the top person, and then around $300,000 for most of their executive people. And I'm just going. And it's what did I read? It's like some X million dollars budget, a business a year. So that I think I mean that doesn't impact us so much in New Mexico. But if we really want to help kids and the state, then the College Board ought to ease back a little bit on the cost.
Interesting point there. Kathy, the senator just brought up the adversity score. It's kind of an interesting thing.
It is.
It's made up of an average of 2 ratings between 1 and 100, one for the student's school environment and the other for the student's neighborhood environment, that indicate the obstacles a student might have overcome, like crime and poverty and things like that. Makes sense, but how one administers that is a difficulty, isn't it? That's a tough one.
I think it is a tough one. And
it's proven to be a tough one.
You know, and as they've tried to compete against each other, because the SAT and the ACT are in competition for who's going to get all of that money. You know, they've been looking for ways to sort of level the playing field, and truthfully, they're both about the same at this point. And so I really think that assessment is a choice. It really doesn't matter what we use, and I'd like us to get back to some reasonable discussion about what our main goal is. Like, what are we trying to do? We're trying to make sure that our students are literate and that they have numeracy. And these scores, you know, using the SAT or the ACT or whatever we decide to call it, whatever we decide to do, is not necessarily going to get us to that goal.
But is that context important? Do you find college admissions folks that they should be more attuned to these situations for these kind of scores, even not having it officially part of the SAT? Should they just naturally be understanding about environment and how one educates oneself and neighborhoods, families, all that kind of thing?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
You know, because I'm not an opponent of Common Core, because it really is meant to say that we want students to have critical reading skills and to be able to comprehend what they read. And so if we get to where we need to be in terms of leveling the playing field so that a school in the Southeast Heights in Albuquerque is the same as a school in the Northeast Heights, then I think they should be able to follow the same standards. That's a big if.
That's the single score argument, and Kathy wouldn't be alone on that. Does that work for you and your gut?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because let's not forget that not every student can or wants to go to college. Now, I am totally for Common Core because I think that's a good standard to have. But all this emphasis on every kid going to college can be detrimental to some kids because they either know they can't go, they don't want to go, maybe there's a vocation that they love and they would like to be in. So I think we're losing a little bit of emphasis on some of those kids that are not college bound, so to speak.
Right. How does this decision fit into that? This idea that
because it's a
some
college
kids are going exactly
readiness test.
Exactly.
I mean, by definition, it's aimed at a certain cohort, which we hope many of our kids will go. But if they don't, they can still have a meaningful, productive life that contributes to society, and I just don't want us to lose sight of that.
Absolutely, it's good.
Can I just say that
in there? Sure.
I think that all of this is about expectations of our students at the beginning of their educational career. Like, how are we teaching them? You know, do they understand how to read? Do they comprehend what they read? Do they have 21st century skills? And certainly there are a lot of students, like, I can't even tell you how much money I just paid to a plumber. So, you know, we want, you know, them to go into some vocations, into trades and things like that, but we want them to be literate and to have numeracy, and that's what we're really looking for.
Good point there.
They need to be a plumber. You need math skills.
Right.
You need reading skills. You need communication is the area that always amazes me that we don't teach more of. Is how to talk to people, how to be successful in your life.
But that's where Common Core comes in, as opposed to all the emphasis being on getting in college.
21st century skills.
It's also it's true though that as the SAT has changed, and I think this is in part a reflection of what we see on the ACT as well, is that there has been a movement away from just math for math's sake, which ideally is the case in our educational systems too, although we're not quite there, and toward the skills data analysis, things that a plumber
Like me,
actually
uses,
does need
yeah.
to use, that business people need to use, and that there is this sense now that we need to be thinking more strategically about what we teach, because for a long time, especially in math, we were teaching things that kids didn't necessarily ever get to use in their adult lives.
That's right.
I mean, I don't think I think it's about the approach, and not necessarily about the assessment. And so, if we're going to get to this moonshot, this transformation that we've been talking about, I'm not sure that all this conversation we're having about assessments is the first place that we should be going
Interesting. Just to wrap this up, Martha, are you in support of this idea to move away from ACT and go to SAT for our state? Does it make sense to you?
Well,
from Park,
yes,
sorry.
it does.
Yeah.
And something I did not know until we got this topic was that New Mexico, New Jersey, and D.C. were the last three to dump Park.
Right.
And so I read something, I wish it was original with me, but that Martinez was obsessed with testing over teaching.
Right.
And that's another thing we haven't talked about, where it was used so much for the teacher evaluations.
Right.
And punitively.
That's right.
And
That's right.
punitively so,
That's right.
yes.
Interesting point there. Out of time. This group will be back in a few minutes to talk about the decision by UNM faculty to unionize and to answer the broader question of whether organized labor is having a moment.